Oh, hello there. Welcome back to the AgostinhoZinga show with your host, Agostinho Zinga, and this is episode number 542. That's 542 of the Agostinho Zinga show. I hope you're doing well wherever this may find you at this present moment. If it's your first time checking the show via YouTube, you know what to do. Smash like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below. That'd be greatly appreciated. Any thoughts, feelings, and suggestions, I'd like to hear them from you. If you listen via the podcast app, a 5-star review, a 4-star review, a 3, a 2, a 1 will obviously be amazing. But any review, I would greatly appreciate that. And of course, support via Patreon is also appreciated at patreon.com. What I say there is also appreciated, not so a P. It's not P at the moment. We're going to get onto that another day. But anyway, if you want to support the podcast via Patreon, the link is in the description at patreon.com/Agostinho. You get access to all my bonus content as well as one live stream that's only available for my Patreon subscribers via patreon.com/Agostinho. It's only $1 a month. I think it's £1 equivalent. Peanuts to get all that content. The bonus content for this week is coming out, or no, for last week is coming out tomorrow. So please bear with me. For those of you on Patreon who are still waiting for that content, is coming. I promise you, it's coming. I'm just rendering everything and putting it all up, and it's going to be done. Trust me. And if you want to join on there, make sure you get involved at patreon.com/Agostinho. Again, like I mentioned, you get one bonus episode per week as well as a live stream per month. Loads of bonus episodes you won't find anywhere else on YouTube, anywhere else where I put media, anywhere else I put content, only available via those channels. So if you want to get involved today at patreon.com/Agostinho. Link is in the description below. But yeah, apart from that, hope you're well. If you're not watching the video, then I'm glad, because I'm just looking at myself in the monitor and my hair looks mad. I'm at the stage in my life now where my hair is getting so unruly. I need to either braid it, lock it, or cut it, because it's kind of reaching a point where it's kind of growing but not growing as much as it should be. Like these bits here, look how long these bits are here, you know what I mean? There's really long bits, and then there's really short bits, and there's really long bits. So if I braid it, it'll be fine. It'll start growing again. And if I lock it, it'll start growing again and be a bit more healthier. But then maybe if I cut it, it'll grow back super strong. I don't know. But it's been like this for ages. And look, look how dark it makes my head look. And if I pull it back, suddenly my head opens up like. So yeah, I need to get my hair done. Definitely get it done very soon. I've actually found a guy on Twitter, no, on Instagram. Actually, I found him, I think, before New Year's Eve. I've stumbled upon this guy's profile again. This is the benefit, I'm not a big Instagram power user because the app's kind of gone to shit over time, and I kind of fell out of love with it. I think mostly because I kind of felt like I was procrastinating too much, and I was spending too much time watching what other people are doing and not concentrating on what I should be doing in terms of trying to get my life together. So the usual feeling inadequate and all that sort of stuff, kind of feelings popped up. Nothing unique in me. I'm sure other people have felt the same. But in general, I've just stopped using it because I'm not really, I don't use it. The platform I thought was the social, yeah. As a social media platform, I thought Instagram was the best when you would just upload whatever was on your phone, or any picture you took. If it was out with your friends, some blurry picture of your friend walking down the street, a pint of beer, like just stupid stuff, your meal you were eating, you were just like spamming the feed. You sort of used your main Instagram account as like a Finsta. How people use Finstas now, where they just upload anything. People don't want to do that on their main feed because they're afraid of not getting the likes that they want, right? Or whatever it may be, or they're not going to get the reaction that they need from certain posts. And because I never understood that deleting posts and re-uploading it because you don't get the likes that you want. That's really, really odd. But that aside, I really enjoyed it when it was that. Then it suddenly changed into this other thing, and now it's basically turned into just another marketing tool, really, isn't it? For the most part, it's not really the best in terms of sharing your own content. But the good thing about Instagram still, I think the algorithm is still pretty watertight in terms of if you're willing to engage. Again, I found, not sure other people are the same, but I know some people don't like anything on there and just kind of browse. But I found if you actually engage with content on there, you leave comments, you follow people's accounts or whatnot, usually your feed becomes a little bit, it starts to kind of reflect the stuff that you might be interested in. They start to recommend and push stuff to you that you might like. And that's what basically happened to me. I started following a few barbershop accounts. Of course, most of them are based in the US because that's where all the good flipping barbers are. We seem to have all the flipping dullards here in the UK. And then for whatever reason, when I did that, it seemed to work. And then now I'm in a stage where I've got some really good recommendations coming through, and I suddenly had this recommendation pop up for this guy that's quite local to where I live, who basically does, locks and fades, it looks like, and braiding for loads of really well-known kind of, footballers here in the UK, a few kind of minor sort of hood area celebs, and just regular people. It looks pretty cool. You book an appointment, it seems like it's a one-man operation, so there's not going to be any of that nonsense that I hate, where you go to a barber, you book an appointment for 2 p.m, you get there at flipping 1:50 or 1:45, and you have to wait until 2:30, 3 o'clock to get your haircut or your trim. It just doesn't make sense. I flipping hate that stuff, which is why I've kind of always had a love-hate relationship with hood barbers, which is why at the moment now I'm going to one that's like run by a Pakistani and Afghani guy who kind of cut hair really well in the hood. And it's funny because it happens to be next door to a black barber, like a Caribbean one, and I always get kind of evil eyes when I walk past, because I just don't want to have to wait around. I just hate playing games. Just cut my hair and let me go home. And those guys are professional. They just trim my hair and they let me bounce. So if this guy's good, I'll stick with him. But the process of finding his details were annoying as hell. For whatever reason, he did that thing on his profile where in his bio he had like, no DMs, right? You have to kind of contact me. You have to call me in order to get an appointment. But there's no phone number in his bio. So it's like, click my link in bio, but there's no link there. So there's no phone number. So then I had to leave a comment under his picture and say, hey, what's your details? Which immediately felt degrading, right? But I did it anyway because I'm desperate. So I did that. Then I'm going through his pictures and I see other people leaving comments. Other thirsty guys like me who are just struggling to get haircuts. Because that's the thing with the UK, like, that's the thing in life in general, right? Until you get exposed to like the nicer things in life, you don't notice how bad you have it. You don't care, right? It's like when you grow up and you're all right with having like tuna and mayo sandwiches, and then somebody, opens your eyes to flipping ham on and stuff, and then suddenly you're like, ham on and a bit of olive oil, wow, that's amazing. And then you start to realize how much price difference there is between ham on and a little tin of flipping tuna. It blows your mind. But you know what I mean? Like, just, you never notice until you have the nice thing. So once I had one decent haircut, which happened to be at this barber shop in like I think it's like Stanmore. It's called like F for Fade or something. Is it F? I think it's called F for Fade. I used to go there a lot. And if you know anything about where I live, to go from where I lived to in Stanmore is a legit like an hour and 30 minutes door to door. Crazy journey, but it was good because that was a time when I was really pounding the book. So I would just take a book with me and I'd read it for an hour straight there and an hour straight coming back. And obviously on the way back I'll get a little cheeky McDonald's or whatnot. I have a little drink, on the way back to. But it's still, you're still having to, even if I get a drink in a bar, I'm still taking that journey back home. That's it. You're still doing it. But I would do it. I'd go all the way there, and that was one of the salons that was notorious for doing that whole like, you booked an appointment for 2, you get sat down at flipping 4 p.m. It used to drive me so crazy. Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting the guy's details, even though I had to run around in his comments and, like a thirsty guy, like I was chasing around some flipping lighty with green eyes, sorry. I finally got his number, and then now I'm going to be able to kind of book it hopefully very soon. And you may be seeing me with either locks or braids, you know what I mean? I'm not too sure it's going to suit my head shape. I've got a few grays coming out, unfortunately. It is what it is, but I don't seem to have any balding going on, so hallelujah. But I'm not sure about my head shape. My head shape's a bit wild, isn't it? It's a little bit, my head shape underneath is like that. No one's seen it because I've not really had a flipping haircut where you can see that, the outline of my head for a few years, but my head shape is a bit wild. That's why I always have such big hair. You could always spot someone's insecurities. It's really easy to kind of pinpoint it. It's easy to pinpoint somebody's best feature or what they think their best feature is, and it's also easy to pinpoint someone's insecurities because they always cover it up. Like, me at the moment, my chest isn't where it needs to be, so you're always going to see me in black t-shirts, never white ones. My head shape is flipping it's a bit pointy. It looks like a 50p piece, 50p coin at the top here. What else do I have? Maybe my feet. That's why I probably don't wear like toes out unless I go on holiday. I don't have my toes out, so I don't have thong sandals on in the UK. I'm always wearing Birkenstocks with socks on. And what else? That's it really. I don't really have any other insecurities really bodily. That's the beauty of being a guy actually. The insecurities you have are kind of things that you can change. I can just do a few push-ups and my chest will be where I need it to be. I don't know about the head shape. You can't really do much. You can maybe wear a hat or just have a hair like this in it, which is kind of trendy, quote unquote. That kind of might help. But yeah, apart from that, nothing else. What's going? Oh yeah, and then what's going on? Is that it? Weekend? No, something else happening, is it? Yeah, man. January is a bit of a dead month. I'm not going to lie. Again, I'm been a bit busy with work and stuff, and I've obviously been busy with doing the stuff that I'm doing here and other bits and bobs that I'm kind of trying to explore. Obviously, I've got the DJing live stream going on, so if you haven't checked that out already on my channel, please do. I'll put a link in the description if you listen to the podcast to check it out. Please check out the DJ live stream that I recorded. I'm going to be doing those once a month, so I'm going to do those live streaming to my channel, and obviously upload some clips here and there. But in general, that's been quite fun to do. I'm not going to lie. That's been a pretty awesome experience. And apart from that, there's nothing else really to touch upon. Oh yeah, and I might do a UFC live stream too for the Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane fight that's coming up very, very soon. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, then definitely keep an eye out on my flipping stream for all of that content coming to you very, very, very soon. But anyway, let's jump straight into it. Get a lot of topics to get through. I don't want to hold you for too long, so if you've got a little drink or a snack, get that now, and let's just go right on in. Let's go right on in. First things first, I found this pretty interesting article online in a particular subreddit. I'm not going to tell you which one because there's no point, but it did just kind of, bring some thoughts to mind about how, I kind of came up in my upbringing and stuff, and maybe kind of shed some light on maybe why I'm the way I am. But somebody posted this thread basically saying, did anyone notice, or was anybody else ignorant of the class divide until they attended university, right? And they said the following. It said, speaking for myself, I grew up in a small working class and largely dying town in north of England. Like particularly everybody at my local substandard comprehensive I left school with little in a way of qualifications. However, I was able to complete some decent qualifications post, which allowed me to attend a relatively prestigious university. I must say, I wish I hadn't bothered, not only for the practical reasons, that is now I only have a 2.1 degree in a field where the first, which nearly all the cohort achieved, is the only real path to academia, but also because the entire experience was just filled me with genuine bitterness. When I first arrived, I was a singular person on my dorm floor without university educated parents. Nearly everyone I met with either privately educated, a fact that they will almost never admit outside of their own company, or attended a flowery independent or comprehensive school named after some medieval artisan guild where fees were not necessary but a particular postcode was. However, the emotion I feel most looking back upon the experience as a recent graduate is, as pathetic as it sounds, was complete jealousy. I'm not particularly jealous of the material wealth of the professional classes. If anything, I've observed working class people spending more money on clothing and holidays, but rather cultural wealth. From an early age, they knew their path, they knew what to do, they were supported in it. Education, networking, extracurricular activities are clearly valued. Whereas in my town, growing up in school, mostly seen as a place where you go so your parents can go to work. Yeah, I love that line. Teachers were generally disliked and seen as unsympathetic, uninspired bureaucrats and petty authority figures. Any criticism of the intersection between class and education in the UK has a caricature of Eton and Harrow toffs to fall back on, and no doubt they exist. I've met them, but generally speaking, they're an endangered species and felt no jealousy of them. They're awful fashion and weird chins. But my observation is ruling classes of the immediate future is decidedly neoliberal. They will read The Guardian and take the good game of inclusion. And talk the good game of inclusion and breaking barriers, but discreetly they will be just as ruthless in defending their privilege as the top hated ones of old. For me personally, I only noticed the class divide, I guess, when I started getting involved in the scene. Mostly, I don't think I noticed it in academia. I didn't really. I was kind of fortunate, and I think it kind of is, maybe there is a slight racial element to it, because I think when you grow up in the hood where I grew up in, a very rough working class background, loads of immigrants, obviously mostly a white area, but again, the community I kind of grew up in, but there's a lot of immigrant community, a lot of Hungarian, Polish, Romanian, a few people obviously from Cape Verde, Africa of course and whatnot, but it's very kind of, and we're all kind of struggling, so you kind of band together regardless of what your skin tone is. If you've all kind of emigrate, or if your parents have all kind of seeked asylum in this country and most of your parents can't speak English, you just kind of figure it out. There might be a couple of fights between you, but usually you figure it out because you're all the same. You're all struggling to put electric on a power key and shit, and make sure food's on the table and whatnot, so everyone kind of chips in with each other. There's always kind of people splitting sandwiches, splitting a packet of crisps. It's really kind of cool, and no one really speaks about it. It's just kind of, I know you're hungry, have this, and kind of move on with it. I mean, loads of kind of preserving people's dignity, which I loved. and that was obviously a great experience. So there was that kind of because you're going through a miserable experience together, you don't really realize it until you step away from it. But in terms of what's the title said, in terms of seeing the class divide, I noticed a class divide when I went to university. So obviously I went to Central St. Martin's. I studied product design there, right? So it was a really good course, really prestigious course, really prestigious university, well known. And the only reason why I decided to go there in the first place was, it's a really dumb story, but essentially I used to go to this really kind of well regarded sixth form in the area that I lived in for whatever reason. I think, no, I actually went to sixth form instead of going to college because I needed the structure, because as you can guess, I'm a bit of a wild boy, and I was wild when I was young too, especially when I was living at home and I felt like I was being controlled. So I just lash out when I was outside, and I kind of felt like I needed to have some structure, even though I was always I did quite well in school. I didn't really struggle to revise. I didn't struggle to read. I was fairly intelligent. Things came to me quite naturally. I was blessing in that regard. I've still kind of made stuff hard for myself. I'd still kind of be my own worst kind of enemy. And I think anybody that knows me personally will know that sometimes I do end up, getting my own way and tripping over myself just because I love to self-sabotage for whatever reason. I'm changing over time, but it did happen a lot when I was younger. So I picked a sixth form because I wanted that structure of being able to go to certain classes 5 days a week, 1 hour per class, whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? That kind of regiment structure you get in secondary school. But then when I was in there, obviously the teachers in there are like just the same as you are in secondary school, right? It's just a flip of a coin. Secondary school teachers are really, really nice, or they're cunts. And I find college teachers they usually treat you a bit more like an adult, because there's a lot more adults in college as there are going to be in sixth form. You're not going to bump into like some 45-year-old in a sixth form, are you? Most likely you will do in a college, so they probably have to temper how they interact with people. So the I studied art. So I think what I studied in sixth form, I studied art, English literature, and graphic design, obviously. So when I did that, my art class, which I was really good at, but again I didn't apply myself, so I only blame myself. I kind of drove my teachers crazy, and I guess in my class there was a couple of girls who were maybe not as talented as I was, but still they put in the work, and they were always attentive, pleasure to be around. Like I kind of learned those early lessons, just they put a smile on the teachers' faces, which I definitely didn't do. So they just went over. So, and because the rest of our classmates also were a bit of a pain in the ass, our teachers, and again looking back at it, they were fairly young then. We didn't know that because we just thought anybody older than us is flipping 50 years old. But I guess because we were such a pain in the ass, when those girls came in and they were so nice to be around, they would kind of do this thing where they would kind of over praise them in front of us, because they wanted us to know that they preferred how they acted vis-a-vis how we acted. But of course that kind of reaction is only going to make us to be more obnoxious and more flipping pieces of shits. So we kind of gave it back to them continually until we got to a point where they just basically started ignoring us, and me included, in terms of the bad eggs in the class. But then I remember one time, one of the teachers was praising one of the girls in our class. We had like what they called, we had like not appraisal, what they called when you review your work. You paint, you do your thing, and then you come around the circle and they review it, and you go through your inspiration, you show your work, whatever. Anyway, we were kind of appraising ourselves, and they're basically giving the feedback on the teacher was giving the feedback on what that girl did and what was good and what wasn't. And I remember her saying something along the lines of, "Oh, you're going to be perfect for your Central St. Martin's. You're really going to be perfect. I really recommend you apply for it." And that put a seed in my head. I was like, what the hell is Central St. Martin's? And why is she only telling her about it and not everybody else? Then it came to time to kind of apply for places to go. And this girl must have applied to Central St. Martin's and got in straight away. And she came to class to tell the teacher. And she was, "Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Well done." She got in. And I was like, and the teacher was being really like, I wouldn't say snarky, but she was kind of really rubbing in our faces that this girl got to Central St. Martin's, she got in, but we didn't. And because the reason why we didn't is because we're pieces of shit, which is pretty true. But then I obviously took it as a challenge, like, nah, don't try that. Like, I'm talented. I know I'm a fucking, I'm the Picasso in this class. I can get into that club place too. And I had no idea what Central St. Martin was. I'd never heard of it in my entire life. And then I just applied like blindly. And then I went, and then I realized, oh, this is why they made such a big deal about it, because people in there were, really up their own arse, but you could kind of get the sense that this is a really prestigious place to be. And I was fortunate enough to get in without doing a foundation. I was offered a place in other unis too, like Kent, Loughborough, and a few others, which I turned down because I wanted to go to Central St. Martin's, because I just wanted to rub it back in that teacher's face. And when I went there, I fucking hated it. So it was a pointless, you know what I mean? I did all that just to kind of get back to a teacher who didn't like me in the first place and ended up hating it. But anyway, long story short, there I did notice some class divide, but I didn't notice class divide. I mostly noticed like inadequacy of my flipping attitude and my perspective in life, because there was a lot of professional people who'd basically go back to Central Martins to study a class like product design in order to get that on their CV so they could bump their salary, their it could bump up their ability to earn more in flipping in their jobs, right? So you go there, get your CV, get on your CV that you graduate from Central Minds of Product Design, and then use that to obviously go and apply for jobs that obviously command a higher salary. And obviously those guys and girls were coming in and they were on it. They were professionals. They were doing their job. I remember there were a couple of Japanese guys that were in my class that were just like so good. Quite embarrassing for me to kind of show some of my illustrations and sketches, because these guys they're on another level. The kind of people who were like spending their lunch breaks like going over drafts, going over how to flip in, make sure they don't have a line that stutters and shit, like really crazy stuff. And I was only doing that on my lunch break or on the way to there onto class, and just wasn't really focused or anything. So that was obviously something that was a great kind of wake up call. But again, like I said, and when I went into the scene, I noticed more of the kind of I noticed more of the divide, because the people obviously growing up within the scene, everyone kind of does that thing which this person mentioned in this post, where they sort of kind of obfuscate or hide or purposely withheld information about their background, which is understandable because it's none of our business. But nothing was really making sense, because you get around these people, especially when I get onto the scene at first, because I kind of came into it mostly through sneakers, right? I kind of got my start going on Crooked Tongues forums, going to buy rare sneakers outside of Foot Patrol and queuing up for days, reselling them, then going to Bape when that was still there, the busy workshop on Upper James Street, going to Hideout and hating the guys that ran Hideout because they were fucking cunts. They didn't like a particular creed of people that went in there, then later on decided to suck everyone off that was young, because they knew everyone else in there was dying and old. But that's a story for another day. But that's where I kind of got my start from, and then from there it kind of evolved to doing, going to Dalston, going to all those places, hanging out, and then that obviously evolved to then doing nights and doing parties, blah 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 blah. And obviously I noticed a divide there, because I remember getting to the scene once when you first started and you're hanging out with people going to warehouse raves, and then suddenly the guy that you were talking to in the toilets or doing bumps with or whatever is suddenly now opening or launching this online streaming platform called Boiler Room, and you're like, huh? Aren't you like the similar age as me, or a couple of years older? Like, I don't understand this. How are you able to launch Boiler Room when we're just in the toilets the other day doing bumps of flipping methadone? That makes no sense. Okay, cool, he does it. Next minute you hear some other person, he's launched some brand, this other person's opened a bar. You're like, how is this possible? We were both like, trying to split a flipping, a pack of flipping K ciders, and now suddenly these people are opening pubs and bars and restaurants. It didn't really even make sense, and you'd always feel inadequate, because you're like, I'm just trying to get a job first. I'm still doing that thing that everyone was doing in the scene, where you're trying to beg a position at Nike, or you're trying to get a job at Supreme and all that sort of stuff, right? And you think that's the fucking mecca. Obviously there were still good jobs, but still you're really holding those things up to a high pedestal. Then when you meet people that work there, you realize, they're just like you and I. They're just a job. It's not as flipping hallowed and holy grail as it kind of meant it to be. And usually the way to kind of get those jobs, really, in the actual practical way to get those jobs, actually, is to just have a career doing stuff, like actually doing things, like showing that you are actually competent, and then you can use that to maybe leverage some of your relationships to maybe get those roles before. But when we were coming up, it was all like, network, go to this art gallery exhibition, go to this open view, go to this launch, whatever it may be, and it may be rub shoulders with the right people, and then you never know, you could bump into whatever and you can get a job. Which is funny, because I did meet James Jebbia once and said kind of, how I kind of gave him some really cringy praise about how important Supreme was to me at the time. I think I might have met him. I think I was like 21 or something. He came into a store I was working at with somebody else. I forgot. I think he might have come into a store with Michael Kopperman from Gimme Five, and they stopped by, and I remember just saying to him, hey man, Supreme's really amazing. He introduced me to the Smiths and really cringy stuff, and he was like, yeah, thanks, I appreciate it. And then he kept moving. Really seemed like a nice dude. Way nicer than the guys in London. They were absolute cunts. Like, they were all cunts. All of them were cunts, without exception. Especially the older dudes. Especially the Gimme Five lot. Like, the Gimme Five lot. The ones that hired out. The OG crew that were there. Like, not the kids that they hired after because they wanted to diversify. Because there's a thing about Hideout. Everyone hated their customer service because they were all cunts, and then they got such a bad reputation. It felt like, to me, I don't know if that's true, they kind of decided to get the young blood in there to basically try to save the dying store that was obviously hemorrhaging money, because no one was buying stuff in it because the people in there were cunts. But it was too late, and then they ended up having to close. I'm not sure if they closed because of the sales or because the rent was high. Who knows? I'm just talking out my ass. But that aside, I noticed obviously that class divide there, because I was thinking these people were all hanging out with each other, they're all launching businesses. Then later on, when you get a bit older, you start to realize, oh, these people came from money, they got the support that allowed them to do X, Y, and Z, which was cool. But I never also felt inadequate. I just think it was just one of those challenges in life you kind of had to level up in. And I think maybe because of my background, maybe because of where I've grown up, you're kind of always at some sort of disadvantage, but you don't really dwell on it too much, because there's no other route out besides working hard. So you can't dwell, and if you sit still, you're not going to be able to help out your family, you're not going to be able to help out your brothers or be inspiration to people around you. You kind of have to do right by the people that kind of risked everything to bring you over here in the first place. So you don't really have time to wallow in, oh, I don't feel inadequate, oh, I don't have this reference, oh, I don't know who Joan Didion is. No, you just have to get wise up to it. That's why I'm so thankful that when I was in sixth form, I started to buy, weirdly enough, I started to buy the Sunday Times, like religiously all the time. I'd buy it. And then from the Sunday Times is actually where I got my interest in fashion, because I used to read the pull out there called Style, when it was really good that time. And that's when I kind of started to understand more about the scene. I'm starting to understand more about the club scene, Soho, the arts, whatnot, through that magazine, through the paper, just kind of getting a bit more culturally aware. And then obviously immersing myself in documentaries, watching random stuff, and just kind of being curious and digging deep into things. But obviously that I was starting from some disadvantage, because there were kids that were coming up I was within a scene whose parents, took them to Glastonbury when they were 12 or when they were 1 year old. Those kind of kids, in terms of their cultural education, it's really difficult to keep up with them, because their parents have been like going to Burning Man since they were 16, and they've been kind of absorbed all this amazing cultural knowledge just through osmosis, just from being around. Even if they're not interested, they're just going to be a little bit sharper than you are, which is understandable. But again, I don't think it's a thing to feel inadequate about. And the only thing I felt slightly inadequate about growing up might have been money, because obviously I grew up poor. So most of my friends around me also grew up poor. So that was the only thing that you kind of felt inadequate about. And I remember there being, you realize that quite quickly, when who was poor and who was rich, because of the houses you went to. When you went to go stay someone's house after school, all their pillows were the same were the same color. The settees weren't ripped up. The TVs looked like they came out of the shop yesterday. I don't know, the floor colors, the carpets on the floor were all the same color. They might have had carpet on the stairs, wood floor, whatever, crazy little stuff that you don't really have in your house. You're like, oh, we don't have curtains, we have just sheets. And you're, oh, okay, cool, they're rich, okay. So, I mean, but again, it's not rich, just, they just have, their parents just had decent jobs, so they're able to kind of, spare a couple of grand or a couple of hundred on some home improvements here and there, which we didn't have, because we just had to make sure you had food on the table. But again, even that, it wasn't anything to dwell on. You just had to get up and kind of dust yourself off and try to make something of yourself, to justify and to kind of pay back your parents for risking everything to bring you over here. There really was no time to dwell. I don't know, maybe I'm kind of compartmentalizing and doing that thing that guys do, where you just bury your flipping trauma. But I think that's what I did. I honestly do think that's what I did. But maybe I don't know. But let me know down below if you have a similar experience, or if you have a different experience, or when did you notice a clear class divide when you were growing up? Was it when you went to school? Was it when you got your first job? Was it when you worked in a particular industry? Was it when you went first traveling? I remember when I went traveling, actually, I noticed that people were really, when I went traveling to Nicaragua, and many people I bumped into who are really shy or really hesitant to tell you how they're doing it or how they're affording it. And of course, most of them were trust fund babies, but the majority of them were also very early on the whole like remote working thing, like customer service and social media managing, like from like Bali and like Indonesia and stuff. And they were just like really, they were smart about keeping it to themselves, because they knew if they told anybody, the floodgates were open. Because who wouldn't want to be a social media manager living in flipping Guadalajara? Who wouldn't be a social manager living in flipping Bali and Ubud and stuff? Who wouldn't want to do that? Like, come on, it's a flipping dream job. So they were smart to keep it to themselves. But yeah, if you had a similar experience, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you have to say about that. I really would. Moving on from that, we want to talk about this quickly. This is regarding Joe Rogan, and this is regarding this video that's obviously gone viral the last couple of days. I'm obviously a bit late in terms of posting it, but I just wanted to update this because it's kind of relating to a post I made, or something I spoke about in the podcast. I made a clip about it on my YouTube channel regarding COVID breaking everyone's brains, and I'm adamant that it has. And I think there's all these effects of there's these long COVID effects that are happening now, right? Where people are still feeling shortness of breath. They still maybe have their taste buds back, their sense of smell. There are all these kind of, physiological things that happen to you. But I think in terms of mentally, in terms of how our brains are wired and our ability to kind of comprehend, understand, denounce, rational thinking, whatever it may be, I think that has greatly suffered during COVID. I think it's fried us in such a way that I think it's never going to be reversed. It's one of those things that just happens, and it's just the way we are now. It's a new reality. You know what people were saying earlier on during COVID that was getting on everyone's nerves, myself included, that phrase, the new normal? This is basically the new normal. The new normal is we're going to live in a world where regular people are going to always question whatever scientists say. They're always going to question whatever health authorities say because of this crazy situation we've gone through. They're not going to be very distrusting of the government. They're going to be very distrusting of government mandates, and they're just going to be resistant and hesitant against any kind of level of control. They're just always going to be, regardless if it's just or not just. It's just the way it is going forward. But another thing I think in terms of broken brains is this inability for people on either side of the aisle in terms of being pro-vaccination or being anti-vax, where when they're not able, or we're not able, because I'm including myself, you're not able to kind of step away from yourself and also notice that you're doing that thing that everyone hates, where you're just where you're ignoring facts that don't kind of agree with your point, or you're throwing doubt on them. And this is a good example of it. This is a tweet courtesy of Joe Rogan, where he's basically tweeting saying, if anyone's going to make me look dumb on the podcast, I'm glad it's just Szeps because I love him and he's awesome. However, this is why I was confused. So he still doesn't get it. So the whole point of it is, I think they were talking about, I think they were talking about vaccines, right? Let me just click the article actually quickly here. I forgot what they took up. I've got the clip. Yeah, the thing I talk about this, boys more at risk from Pfizer jab side effect than COVID studies suggest, right? They're going back and forth on this. And Joe said something, Joe Szeps kind of pushed back and said, I don't think that's true. Joe then tried to get some proof to back up his point, but then he still argued that he doesn't think it's true. So he wasn't able to kind of, when presented with kind of evidence that kind of counteracted what he was saying, he wasn't willing to change his position, which is something that you would know Joe to be the king of, right? This is part of the reason why I'm such a big fan of his. Like, I love the guy, and I've been listening to the JRE podcast since the maybe high hundreds. He's basically the reason why I've done a podcast myself, right? Like, he's really, really inspirational. Obviously been able to build this amazing, basically, platform where he has the ability to kind of change the careers of his friends and interview some really important people that are doing some great work and maybe have been overlooked, whatever, right? Just a great dude, and no need to basically wax on about that. He's an amazing dude, but there's no denying over the last couple of years, especially with COVID, he's just turned a corner that I don't think he's ever going to turn back from, and this is a good example of it. It just seems that COVID has broken his brain to a point where he can't see how the old Joe Rogan would cringe a bit at how he's talking regarding COVID. But things happen, and you get older, you get money, and maybe your position on stuff changes fundamentally anyway. So maybe this isn't a COVID thing. Maybe this is just where he was always going to end up. But I'll play the clip anyway for you of this exchange that Joe Rogan had with Josh Szeps on his podcast.
Or there's an adverse risk associated with the vaccine. It's like a 2 to 4-fold increase in the instances of myocarditis.
Yes, but you know what?
Hospitalization.
You know that there's an increased risk of myocarditis among that age cohort from getting COVID as well, which exceeds the risk of myocarditis from the vaccine.
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true. No. I don't think it's true that there's an increased risk of myocarditis from people catching COVID that are young versus increased risk of myocarditis from the vaccine.
No, there is. There's both.
Well, let's look that up because I don't think that's true. Myocarditis more common after COVID-19 infection than vaccination. But is this with children? Yeah, we're talking about young people.
Men and boys aged under 30 after this is what it says here.
With children is the issue.
Well, no, we were talking about 15-year-olds.
Well, we're talking about young children.
Male child. 12 to 17.
12 to 17, more likely to develop myocarditis within 3 months of catching COVID at a rate of 450 cases per million infection. This compares to 67 cases of myocarditis per million of the same time following their second dose of Pfizer.
Yeah, so you're about 8 times likelier to get myocarditis from getting COVID than from getting the vaccine.
That's interesting.
Now,
that is not what I've read before, but also it's like, even when we're reading these things, it's like, what are we getting this from? Was this from the VAERS report? But even from the VAERS reports, when they report this stuff, it's like the amount of people that report, it's the underreporting.
yeah, he just wasn't having it. It completely makes sense. I get it. When you're stuck on your point and you just don't want to let it go, it makes maybe some sense. But like I said before, I just think, unfortunately, COVID has broken our brains irreparably. And I think whatever side of the aisle you're on, you're not going to move from that position. It's very unlikely that, or some of your anti-vax friends are ever going to get the vaccination. So stop going on at them. It's very unlikely your vaccination friends who are still wiping down their groceries are not going to continue doing it whenever a new variant comes about. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. This is the kind of life we're going to lead because we were ill prepared. And we basically, I think, for the most part, have faced no real adversities in our life. So, especially us that live in the Western world, we've kind of never had to live through anything like this. So we were maybe a bit ill prepared for what it would do to our brains. Let's forget society and obviously jobs and, people's health and whatnot is obviously bad, but in terms of our brains and our ability to basically be rational thinkers, it went completely out the window during COVID, and I just don't think it's ever coming back. Those are one of the things that's just going to be like one of those sort of unintended consequences of COVID that we're just going to have to live through and kind of make it work. Basically, similar sort of thing happened with Brexit. I'm so sure some people vote for Brexit with good intentions, and now they're in this place where they just have to kind of you kind of have to just sit on your side. There is no moving away from it now because we are where we are, and it is what it is. But yeah, big up Joe Rogan, innit? Big up Joe Rogan. What else to talk about here? Let's move on. Oh yes, talk about another Joe. Was it? Did I make it off the wrong thing? Okay, let's go here. Talking about another Joe. This is a clip courtesy of the Joe Budden podcast, which again I said I don't listen to. I've stopped listening to it since the fallout with Rory and Moore, which I thought personally was a bit of an affront and a little bit offensive. No, it wasn't an affront. Yeah, it was an affront to the fans because Joe Budden and co. And again, the Rory and Moore also are included in this. They sold us this illusion that they were this kind of ragtag group of friends who were in it to basically, not say expose the industry, but to basically prove that a group of friends could do right by each other by creating a platform where they were able to talk about culturally relevant topics concerning hip-hop and black culture, obviously in the US and maybe worldwide, and also kind of spearhead this new sort of podcasting frontier that exists within that kind of black media space, right? And Joe Budden, for whatever reason, decided to be the bastion of fighting for the creators' rights and being the guy that was always rapping on about the creator and talking about how people's deals are so bad and kind of reciting stories of his rapping career and how he was shafted by certain people. And the kind of undercurrent of it was being that he's been through the shit before, so he knows how it feels and he can offer a different perspective. And for the most part it did work out that way. Then obviously when the fallout with Rory and Moore happened and it got exposed that what we thought the JBP wasn't exactly what it was in real life, I kind of had to stop listening to it, especially when Joe Budden went on his nonsensical rant regarding those two guys and fired one live on air and just was a bit of a cunt regarding the whole situation. Now again, I'm sure there's more to it, I'm sure there's stuff I don't know, but from what I see with my own eyes, I'm willing to kind of write that show off completely. The original lineup was one of the best podcasts that ever existed in the history of the world. It really helped me through some tough moments. It provided me with untold amounts of entertainment, especially on Saturday afternoons where I've just wanted to kind of get ready, do some chores around the house, maybe go out or whatever it may be. You had this 2.5 hour podcast with these guys that were just making you laugh out loud. Like I'd be sitting on the train listening to a Joe Budden podcast, like giggling to myself while I was on the train or giggling to myself while I was at work and stuff, right? To the point where it maybe drove some people really insane that I was always kind of kikiing under my desk or whatnot, trying to make sure that I didn't disturb people. And then suddenly it gets taken away from me because the main guy who was basically gave you the idea that he was some sort of fair dude who had learned from all the mistakes of his own career and how he got shitted on, basically then shitted on his own friends in his own way. Again, he could argue against it, say he didn't do it, but his friends didn't like how he reacted, or they didn't like that he did provide them the information that they needed. He maybe as a leader should have put his personal feelings to one side and just diffuse the situation, because the strength of the show was them together. But fundamentally, Joe Budden always thought that the show was his, it wasn't anybody else's. He was the main act, and without him the show doesn't run. To some extent maybe he got proven right, but in general, in terms of the original lineup, if I don't have that, I don't care. That aside, one of the things I've noticed in stepping away from the podcast listening all the time is all the little things that he does that kind of drive me nuts. One of the things that drives me nuts about him, has been this constant rabbing on and complaining about the girls or the women that he has in his life, about the things that they do. The reason why it's annoying is because for the most part, Joe Budden seems to have a type, and they're usually birds, which is not a bad thing, right? In terms of they're a bit bird-brained, they're a bit, we'll say simple-minded, but it's a particular kind of woman that he's kind of into in terms of their mentality. Not so much looks. I think he tends to kind of jump around in terms of looks wise. You can't say just likes Hispanic women, because he's dated a few black ladies too that we know of, well-known ones too, so that's not a thing. But in terms of how they think, he definitely tends to go for a certain type of woman. Some would say because they're easy to manipulate. I would just say because it's just an interest, it's just a like. We all have our things that we're attracted to. But the thing that I don't like is that he's attracted to a certain type of woman, and then he always complains about how that certain type of woman acts in the relationship. And I think it's a little bit unfair to the ladies. It paints them in a bad light. It obviously, he's trying to further the point that it's their fault and not my fault, and he doesn't take any personal responsibility for how he's maybe driving people to do the things that they're doing in this clip. So in this clip, he's complaining about what certain women that he's into do when they're in a relationship with him. And it just kind of it bothered me. Do you know what I mean? It kind of grinded my gears, more so because, again, it's another reminder that the show that I knew and loved is completely dead. But yeah, this is Joe Budden talking about the girls that he's attracted to and why he's annoyed by their actions.
Tell that to these
That
rappers.
used to be my beef, right, with some women. I'll open this up. Some women. Women, right, will post your dog or the mirror that they like, or your tattoo or your watch.
Favorite restaurant.
They don't do that and not give a fuck how it affects, like, your life.
Because it's not about you, nigga. They doing that to one up the other ones.
But I'm not mad at that, because you gotta play little spiteful games from time to time. I'm not mad at that. I got your nigga, bitch. What I'm mad at is, why does anybody have to know what's going on here? Like, in this room, it's the five of us here. Why does anybody outside of this room need to be privy to something that's happening here unless one of us put it there?
The internet.
Why does somebody in Italy...
Which is a funny thing for him to say. Again, I think Park's a little chirped in there with his little sucking, but it's funny for him to say that because he was the guy that also, kind of decided to launch his own Joe Budden TV platform, essentially with content that revolved around his relationship with Tahiri at the time, right? Documenting their day-to-day struggles and their ups and downs and whatnot. And it's just like, what do you expect, bruv? You've always been the content guy. There's never a microphone or a camera you've been in front of that you don't want to flip in, rant in. And now suddenly he's turned into Mr. Private Man. Don't post my information. But then also I'm going to get with the hottest, IG girls that have millions of followers and shit. It's just, leave us alone. Leave us alone, man. Like, you clearly like these girls. You like the drama. It's kind of reminds you of the dudes that complain about women that kind of give them headaches, or the dudes that complain about women that are basically really controlling. It's like, you like that. You kind of get off on the fact that she really is into you and she kept checking up on you. She thinks you're cheating on her all the time. She's a bit nuts. She turns up at your workplace. She turns up at the bar. She turns up at Power League. You like that shit. Don't complain. Because if you didn't like that, you wouldn't keep going for the same person, but with a different face and body. Basically, that's what a lot of people do. They just date the same people, but they just have different features. That's it. But there's the same person mentally. It's just like, it's annoying. It's annoying. Like, it really, and again, this guy's 40 something years old with 2 kids. Like, you would imagine he'd be growing up a little bit, but that's maybe part of the reason why entertainers and famous people are different to us regular folk. It feels like I've noticed that, because there is a bit about them where I think I noticed it a lot with the LA podcast comedian guys. You kind of have to be a little bit, you kind of have to live in a state of like Arrested Development, right? You kind of have to have a little bit of a Peter Pan syndrome where you don't want to grow up, because essentially that not growing up allows you to tap into your maybe silly goose side of things in order to be funny and to produce or make good content. Or maybe, I think so, because if you're an adult and you're grown up, you're going to talk rationally, you're going to talk in a mature manner, but that doesn't necessarily make for good content. It doesn't, because you're not screaming and hollering, you're not flipping stuff, you're not having these exaggerated reactions, you're not just making up nonsensical points, which people seem to love and hate. So I think you need to have an element of that kind of infantileness in your head, and maybe that's part of the reason why he thinks like that, because he's, for the most part, Joe's been famous in his entire life for the most part, right? Most of his kind of developmental years have been, under some famous spotlight. Even if it was, people laughing at him, still he was quite well known. So he's always kind of had to, he's never really grown up in that. Even when you have kids, you don't really grow up. Especially look what's happening now with Kanye West and Julia Fox. That is not a normal relationship in the real world. Like, they've suddenly went from being strangers that didn't know each other to suddenly being like living inside of each other's t-shirts. Do you know what I mean? Like they're breathing each other's air in that sense, like they're sucking each other's face off. And it wouldn't be surprised me if like a few months down the line or a month down the line they're married, or she's flipping pregnant. It's insane. Do you know what I mean? They don't really operate the same time frame as we do in the real world, because you're essentially living in Disneyland. You're like, you've got this amazing dream job that allows you to basically wake up and basically all your needs and wants are basically delivered to you hand and foot. You got a gang of team of people that basically want to do everything possible to make sure that you get more famous, to pay for their mortgages, to pay for their kids' private tuition, to pay for their flipping G-Wagon. Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of in service to you becoming more successful or sustaining a level of success. Everyone around you basically wants to suck you off because they also want to live off some of your shine. So maybe that leaves you to be a little bit, have a little bit of an infantile, naive, childish way of thinking about things, because he keeps ending up in the same situation with these same type of women that like to take pictures and shit when they're in a private setting, and then he keeps complaining about it. It's like, enough of the complaints, man. Enough. Like I've done. But that's part of the reason why I'm happy I stopped listening to the pod, because I think when obviously someone reveals themselves that way, because again, like I said, he sold us a dream, Joe, that he was this kind of creators, flipping the guardian of creators, right? The guy that basically championing the creators' rights, talking about podcast splits and talking about podcast splits and people that are in bad deals and all this stuff. And then in the end, it turns out that he's doing bad by his actual friends that he came up with, friends that were an essential part of the show. It's like, jog on, you wild lad. But yeah, let's move on from that one. Let's talk about this. Let's move this around here. Oh, sorry, pardon. So this is courtesy of Sky News. This is an article that says as follows. It says COVID mask. So face masks make people more attractive, studies suggest. I don't think that's really a shocker for anybody. I think anybody that's been on the train or that's kind of went into a store or that's been out and about, and especially during the height of the pandemic, and then we were able to go out where the restrictions got eased and you were just kind of locked up in your home and you didn't get to see somebody that you were attracted to, opposite sex, same sex, whatever, and you saw somebody, your heart would flutter, be like, oh my god, she's really hot, and you didn't see her face, you don't know what they look like, but you've been so starved of flipping physical what you call it, physical whatever, that when you see somebody, especially their eyes, you'd be like, oh my god, that person looks like flipping Cleopatra. It's like, nah mate, they don't. It's just because they're covering the majority of their face, and usually most people have a half decent flipping brow area that kind of make them look a lot more attractive than they actually are, because once they take off that mask, that grizzle might be all sorts of funny style. So let's see this following, and obviously they've got an example here showing this guy who's got no face mask on. He's got a covering that just covers underneath his nose, and he's got a mask on that's coloured, and a mask on that's obviously surgical looking. And if you see these two pictures there, he clearly looks a lot more handsome than he does in this picture, and maybe even in this picture. Do you know what I mean, in terms of his overall face and structure and whatnot. But here's an article. It says face masks may be among the more divisive issues of the COVID-19 pandemic, but those reluctant to wear one may change their minds now that academics have discovered that people look more attractive when wearing one. Yes, we know that they cover up half of your face, but a team of experts in Cardiff University has found that wearing a mask, in particular a blue medical mask, increases your facial attractiveness. Interesting. Dr. Michael Lewis from University School of Psychology, an expert in psychology of faces, said prior to the pandemic, research found that medical face masks reduce attractiveness. His team wanted to see if the ubiquitous use of face masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19 since 2020 had changed people's perceptions. The study measured how different types of faces masks change attractiveness of 40 male faces. A group of women was asked to rate the attractiveness of images of male faces without a mask, wearing a cloth mask and a blue surgical mask, and medical mask, and holding a black book covering the area the mask would hide on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, the only reason why I'd say this is a bit skewed, because like I said before, from the time that I went out, the first time when restrictions got eased and clubs reopened, it was maybe the only time in my life, maybe since, when you first go to the first sort of like house rave when you're 16 to like 19, I legitimately saw more people lip-syncing on the dance floor, snogging their other's faces off than I've ever seen since that time. I was 16 and 19. I swear to God. Everywhere I turned, when I was in E1, I think it was E1 and Fold, I was like, Jesus Christ, bro, everyone's really hungry, innit? People were sucking each other's faces off legitimately everywhere I turned. I might have saw a cheeky little, finger, what you call it? Finger thrust going in certain places too, and I was like, God almighty, these people are thirsty. Understood, of course, because you've been locked up indoors and you've been able to go out, you've got double jabbed, you've got the booster, so you just, let me live free and be loose. But this survey might have been skewed because these women might be super starving themselves, and they're also getting their rocks off by looking at pictures of men that they find attractive on a piece of paper. I don't know, but let's continue. What did the study discover? Even this picture, even this little image here, look how more cute all these girls look with their faces covered, like from there to there. Do you know what I mean? Just even covering the nose is a big deal. Crazy. Dr. Lewis said our study suggests faces are considered most attractive when covered by medical masks. They may be because we're used to healthcare workers wearing one blue mask, and now we associate those with people caring on medical professions. At a time when we feel vulnerable, we may find wearing a face mask reassuring, so we feel more positive towards the wearer. Maybe true. We also found our faces are considerably more significant when covered by cloth masks than they're not with covered. They were not covered. Some of these effects may result in being able to hide undesirable features, the lower part of the face, but this effect was present for most least attractive people as well. You know what this also explains? This might also explain why a lot of people, because I'm actually going to get it done. That's the thing that's the only cosmetic surgery I'm really going to get done. So soon, whenever I end up having saving the necessary amount, I'm going to make the Essex and Chav pilgrimage to Turkey and get my teeth done, right? So I always went to get really great, like Hollywood teeth, which is going to be mad. That's going to look fucking so good. But I've always noticed, especially with dudes, women it's a bit different, especially when they get their full dentures done. You sometimes look like they're wearing a mouth guard, but I've noticed even with average looking guys, just getting your teeth done, even getting them whitened, can take you up from like a 4 to like a 7 really, really quickly. And I'd imagine because most people's bottom half of their face is, it's a madness, from their chin to the lack of maybe jawbone to maybe like a cheek, but whatever, this is a madness. So if you're able to just improve your teeth, it kind of makes it's like when you get braces, it kind of brings your chin forward, maybe makes you a little bit more square. I don't know, whatever. It just there's something about that teeth straightening that kind of fixes it, which makes sense. Because if people are saying that covering it increases how attractive you look, just imagine if you add a little bit of pizzazz on there and you've got half decent, okay top of your head, you're gonna look pretty decent looking, which also explains why people are so they can't keep their eyes off people that are super attractive, because it's something you don't see often, because most of us are butters, myself included, right? The actual genuine hot people out here are aliens and freaks, because we're all kind of fighting and scrapping with what we have. Do you know what I mean? We're putting on cocoa butter, we're getting tanned, we're getting a little nip tuck here and there, we're working out, we're doing whatever we can to kind of elevate our levels. But some people just wake up and they're just hot. Do you know what I mean? They just have the ability to just wake up, step out, and people are just breaking their necks to look at them. So maybe that's part of it. But I'm definitely one of the best things I'm going to do. So I think it's going to be a key investment. Second, it's probably the two biggest investments I'm definitely going to make in my life for the next couple of years is getting my teeth done and get my driving license, or my driver's license. That's going to be two things I definitely need, because obviously driver's license will allow me to not have to take my passport out with me all the time, because it's always a little bit of a scary situation. I have to take my passport out with me all the time when I want to go out in order to have ID to obviously get into clubs, which is not adequate because it's a passport. You don't want to lose that. And then obviously get my teeth done and allow me it'll just open up my face. I mean, I'll look amazing with like shiny white pearls. I won't get a massive chompers, just a nice subtle kind of set when I get done. Do you know what I mean? Just gonna look amazing. I can't wait for that to happen. But yeah, interesting article. It continues. It says, Dr. Lewis added, the current research shows that pandemic has changed our psychology in how we perceive wearers of masks. When we see someone wearing a mask, we no longer think that person has a disease. I need to stay away. I wonder if people are actually smashing with a mask on. Like if that's a turn on for some people. They've got little kinks, little rooms, or if that's one of the people's kind of interest or kinks that they put on their dating profiles on flipping, dating apps and stuff. I wonder. This relates to evolutionary psychology and why we select the partners we do. Disease and evidence of disease can play a big role in mate selections. Previously, any clues on disease would be a big turn off. Now we have to observe the shift in our psychology, and such that the face masks are no longer acting as a contaminating cue. contamination Q. So is that the reason? Obviously, that kind of evolutionary psychology. I wonder if that is in part due to how some men are super into girls that have like massive tits, because they view that as like a sign of what, like motherhood. Like you're gonna be able to look after a bunch of kids, or I don't know. Maybe is that a thing? Because there are some dudes that are having I've never really been a big tit guy, but I know there's dudes that are really into boobs, like super. And if the bigger they are, the better for them. Do you know what I mean? They're gonna fall in love with you straight away. And maybe that's a kind of evolutionary psychology or evolutionary biology. I don't know, whatever that thing is, where you basically think, oh yeah, this person's gonna be a good mother. She's gonna look after all my kids. I'm gonna impregnate her and run. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. I don't know. Who knows, man? But yeah, crazy situation. Maybe I'll start wearing my mask more often now when I go out. Who knows? That might help. But it's always, what I think of when the mask. I think when you're wearing them, especially when you have to take them off, it kind of reminds me of that scene in the club where you feel like flipping Prince in the 80s or stuff, and you're dancing, you're having a good time, you feel so hot, you're moving around, you've exchanged some numbers with people, you added some people on Instagram, you've got friends, you've done a couple of bumps, you've done maybe a pill or whatever, and then bang, the light comes on, and suddenly your real self is exposed, like who you really are. I kind of feel the same thing happens to the mask when you take it off. It's all like you look cute, you look hot with just covering your face and things like that. But then when you take it off, everyone's like, everyone's screaming like, I can't believe it, I can't believe it, I can't believe it. Let's move on from that one. Let's talk about this quickly. I thought this was an interesting topic about this. Is that interesting to talk about in terms of possibly, is it? Maybe not. Let's leave that. Let's move on from that one. Who cares? Maybe it's a bit of a macabre topic to talk about. Oh, this is a good one. So obviously, I think most of you are aware that Kanye put out a track with The Game called Easy. I'm not too sure what that's going to be on. It says The Game and Kanye West, which is a new thing happening nowadays. People are not doing the featuring thing anymore. It's like a trend in recording. They do the and now. There's no more featuring, so it's not like an artist featuring this person. It's like a quote unquote collaboration, which it obviously isn't, but still I like that whole thing that they're doing, collaborative effort. But they've put out a track together called Easy. The artwork is flipping insane. It's like a skinned monkey that Nick Knight put together. I think, Nick Knight's connection with Donda is really long lasting, from the stuff he did with Virgil, from the stuff he did with Bin Trill, from just the stuff he's done with Kanye, of course, directly. And just, he had maybe one of his better interviews there of all time, where he sat down with, I forgot her name, the woman who gave Matthew Williams a bit of a run for his money in terms of interviewing. She kind of pressed him a little bit when Kanye was going through his stuff in terms of kind of turning on Kanye. He didn't. And she also did a really good interview with what's the guy's name, man? The founder of Dazed and Confused magazine. She grilled him super hard. It was a really funny, awkward interview. But she was awesome on the flipping show studio. But she left. I don't know what she does now, but she was really good on there. A really good kind of fashion journalist in that kind of snarky Helen. What's that woman called? You remember that woman that interviewed Jordan Peterson? She had kind of similar sort of tone. She was very kind of condescending, but in a really cheeky way. And she kind of always backed those guys up in corners. But anyway, regardless, Nick Knight seemed to have a really, great connection with Kanye. So, it made sense that he'd kind of pick one of his, artworks or his photography or his pieces. What does he call them? No, he says he's an image maker. That's what Nick Knight says, isn't it? Image making. So, it makes sense that he'd do that. But that aside, image making, picked the album cover that went viral, people going crazy. Skin monkey, everyone's kind, oh my god, it's racism. Shut up, it's a monkey. Like, if you associate monkeys with racism, it shows how little you think of yourself, really, innit? Because if you don't believe in God, we essentially are all flipping descendants of flipping apes anyway. So what's the problem here? But anyway, regardless, move on. The track itself is, I think, really good. Really, really, really good. The sample's amazing. It kind of has that kind of Pusha T, the Clips grinding feel to it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's a DJ in me in terms of knowing what songs mix well with it. Maybe it's a little bit faster than grinding, maybe a bit slower, maybe, but it has that kind of feel to it. So I've been playing it on loop when I've been in the gym recently. I really enjoyed it, but the bits that really stand out that I thought were really kind of shocking were obviously some of the bars and the kind of barbs that he did towards Kardashians, and obviously his now soon to be ex-wife and whatnot, in the situation he's going through. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of what, because again, he was talking about recently on Instagram about he was complaining about he wasn't invited to, you know, one of his daughter's birthday parties, and he eventually did get an invite because he basically had a tantrum online and basically got everyone else involved in his business, which then alerted the attention of maybe Travis Scott, who maybe gave him the address of the party. But regardless, who knows what's going on there? It's not our business. But I thought this is really interesting because this is coming again. This is totally thing about Arrested Development. When you're an artist, you don't really grow up, and you're not really a regular human being because you've lived. Especially someone like Kanye, he's like, his level of fame is just another level, and he's also, you know, maybe suffering from some form of mental illness, and he's generally a bit of an agent provocateur, right? Provocateur, whatever that term is. So he definitely likes to press people's buttons. So imagine all those combinations, in, you know, involved in one pot, and then you add the fact that he is a creative genius and that he is amazingly gifted in all the areas he's basically pursued and successful. He's only going to turn into whatever this monster we have now at the moment. But I thought his ability to come on this track and basically insult his entire family is just really interesting, especially considering his age and also considering the amount of children he has with this woman in terms of Kim. I just don't understand it, man. Like, this little bar here to open the track, like how I hear him bring that into the table and I'm the table, is clearly something that is like a bit of an inside. It's a bit of a view in terms of like how they talk to communicate to each other in the family, and definitely something that people with any inside would know what he means by this for sure. I don't think this is a line out of nowhere to start your bar or to start your verse like that. You know, how I bring nothing to the table when I'm the table. Like, there's no way you say something like that without meaning it to apply to some people. And obviously continues, I'm gonna turn up the music, wake up the neighbors, which obviously you would imagine is a bar towards Kim, because he bought a house next door to obviously move closer to the kids because of the breakup. He goes, I'm gonna get that thug life tatted across the navel. Obviously Tupac reference. This is how I am in real life, not just on cable. In terms of he turns up, he is this great guy that he is at the moment. The Mrs. Narcissist line I love, because there is a lot of weird connections there at play, because this could be a little wink and a head nod to Playboy Carti, who, when he was going through his baby mama drama with, what's her name, Iggy Azalea, she said something online like he's a narcissist or something, and then he obviously took that and ran with it and then named his tour that. And then, of course, I'm assuming just leaning into the fact that he is a narcissist and doesn't care about anyone else but himself. Cool. And then I'm assuming Kanye and Playboy Carti have a little bit of a kinship there. They seem like they're spirit animals. So it would be surprising if he used that as basically a wink and a head nod, but also kind of leaning into the fact that I'm the villain. Okay, cool. I'm the narcissist. I'll take that. I'll take that adage. I'll take that label. Tell me about my arrogance. No more cancelling. I don't negotiate with therapists. It's a great bar, double entendre. I don't negotiate with terrorists. Ascribing therapists to terrorism is just such a Kanye bar. It really is, because he can't be told anything. This is the thing people don't realize. This is why I'm a biggest fan of Kanye, and I absolutely love him, because same with Joe Rogan. As much as I don't agree with how he's gone about things, I just love the fact that these guys, again, to a certain degree, because, you know, they can be a little bit annoying, but I think for the most part, the whole point of having fuck you money is so you can say fuck you. It's so that you can stand on your shit, hold your nuts in your hand, and just say, suck on that, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And I think most men, they live for that. Not in terms of maybe being a billionaire, but being able to kind of, you know, be able to take your wife and your partner out to a restaurant that they want and be able to just cover the bill. Doesn't matter where we go. Pick a holiday destination. I got it. To put your kids in good schools. I got it. Cover all their birthdays. I got it. Let them go on trips. I got it. Be able to help out your friends if they need something. I got it. That's what FU money is meant to do. Like, if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's that possibilities. It's not much. Again, you don't have to be a millionaire to do it. It's just the ability to be like, have your destiny, and you have the ability to look after your family and yourself by your own means, without having to kind of rely on somebody and wait for handouts. That's what all men want. So I think when guys see this, they kind of can see themselves in him, because we all kind of want that level of freedom, and we would also do whatever he's doing. And if somebody then, this is him. He's a heightened version of that, because Kanye's always believed he was the alpha and the omega from day dot. So then imagine something like that being told by a therapist that what they need to work. Because when you go to marriage counseling, I'm imagining, or therapy even for yourself, you're going to be, you know, they're going to ask you to be introspective. They're going to maybe call you out on some of your bullshit. Then maybe it's not going to be judgmental, but there's going to be an element of it where they're basically telling you things that you need to improve about yourself. But if you generally think that you're God's gift to earth or God's gift to women, you're not going to be listening to that shit. You're going to be thinking, you guys are here to sabotage me. So kind of referring to therapists as terrorists is just such a great bar. God, yeah, want to let God in, right? Of course, great bar to follow up. But tonight, I guess I'll let my pride win. Cousin Dre sent me scriptures, helped me see life better, which is funny. He's talking about scriptures because he's been very, and he's very the most. He's been the opposite of a born again Christian this whole couple of months, innit? Running around with flipping Julia Fox and their big batty and stuff, right? Going to all these late night jaunts, all these little bars and restaurants he's going to. I'm pretty sure they don't just serve flipping sparkling water over there. So it's been interesting to see. It continues here. Do you think Kanye does coke? I don't know. Do you think he's a coke? Do you think he's a drug guy? I'd imagine Kanye would be more of an MDMA dude. Wouldn't imagine he'd do a coke. I don't be a coke guy. I can imagine him being a 2CB, a shrooms guy, an MDMA guy, maybe an edible guy. But I can't see him doing lines and stuff. I don't know. There's something about Kanye where if he would do lines, imagine how he would be if he was on coke or something. Wow. I think he would. Yeah, I think he'd definitely be. I don't think he's an Xanax guy. I don't think he's a Percocet guy. No, maybe he's a Percocet guy. Maybe he's a bit of a Percocet. Oh, he was before. That might have explained some of the bloating he had previously. But yeah, what do you reckon? But yeah, it continues. Cousin Dre said, "Nigga, we having the best divorce ever. It's the best bar coming up. If we go to court, we go to court together. Matter of fact, pick up your sis. We'll go to courts together." I love that bar. That exchange is awesome. But I was wondering, I don't know if you guys would agree with me. I think this could be a double or triple entendre or quadruple entendre because Kourtney Kardashian's been single, I think, legally for a while. She's only recently got engaged to Travis Barker, right? So why would you say court to come to court with you when she's already divorced or when she's not with what's his name, Scott Disick? The line I thought that related to was I thought it related more to Khloe Kardashian because she's going through what she's going through with Tristan Thompson. So that would make more sense. Even though they're not married, it's still a good way to kind of link it together. Do you know what I mean? That would make more sense. I pick up your sis. That could be anybody. But then maybe he said courts and maybe they refer to Kourtney as courts. I don't know. But I think it's a clever little bar there. But saying we having the best divorce ever is such a Kanye bar. Again, because he does this all the time. When he was going through his mental breakdown, he called it a mental breakthrough. He always has a way to kind of spin things that people basically will turn into like a negative to a positive. It's kind of one of those things that you do whenever. I do a lot as well in my life, my self-affirmations and my self-speak. When I go through stuff, I just like, okay, this is a trial and tribulation. It's something that I'm going to have to kind of bounce back from. This is not something that's going to define me. I'm going to push through, blah, 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 blah. You kind of do it just to kind of rev yourself up because if not, what's the point of living? But I love that bar, man. Honestly, it's really, really good track. I really recommend you check it out. I'm not going to go through the entire bar and really analyze all of it, but honestly, the game featuring Kanye West called Easy is great. A little bit awkward though, because the game did make that track where he's basically saying, what do you say? I made Kim swallow my kids or something. Remember that flipping track he put out? Mad disrespectful. I don't know. Again, I couldn't do it. I don't know why Kanye forgave him. Maybe because the game's an actual goon who could maybe crush Kanye's head with his bare hands. Maybe that was part of the reason why. But it's very interesting to see how everyone's kind of flipped the script on Kanye too. It was only a few months ago it felt like the entirety of the black community in America hated him for his kind of love and adoration for Trump, and then suddenly he puts out a good album and he puts out an incredible rollout for Donda, and then suddenly everyone's on his nuts again. It's just funny how things change in it. But again, I think it's more so when you're talented. When you're really talented, you can get away with murder. I think what book did I read that said this? Was it a book? Yeah, I think it might have been Robert Greene's book. Laws of Power. So is it 4 Year? I forgot what it was. Maybe it's a Robert Greene book. Maybe it's a Tim Ferriss book. But I remember a book I read that said you have to have 3 things in your career in terms of if you're going to be successful going forward. You have to be either you have to have 2 or 3 things. So you're really good at what you do, a pleasure to be around, and you're always on time. But if you got 2 of the 3, you're okay. So if you're a piece of shit, but your work is always good and it's always on time, then people are going to put up with you. But then you can't have 1. You have to have 2 out of 3, basically. You can't have only 1 trait because you're going to also suffer. And I've noticed that in my workplace too. I've been in places where maybe I wasn't the perfect person for the role, but because I was a pleasure to be around, I was a good vibe in terms of the team. I was always on time. I was never late. It kind of afforded me a little bit more of grace, and I probably should have got. Do you understand? Obviously, you need to match the skill level too eventually over time, but you can get away with murder that way. But if you've got the whole trifecta in terms of you're really talented, you're like a freak talent, and your work is just amazingly good, even when it's not on time, people are going to put up with a lot more with your kind of attitude and how you act. Look at people like Elon Musk, for instance. People put up a lot of Elon Musk because, again, how genius of a, the genius level he kind of operates in. The same happens with Kanye too. But it's just interesting to see all these people that were, really offended at the fact that he was wearing a MAGA red hat, which is, still I think one of the most ugliest designs that ever exist in terms of something that could get people really upset. That stupid hat was so dumb that it made people so angry. But yeah, whatever. Check it out anyway. The game and Kanye West. It's called Easy. Sorry, it's a great track. Let's move on. Oof, I think I've had too many green juices. I think my flipping. Oh yeah, let's talk about this. We have to talk about this. We have to. So this is courtesy of. Oh, let's go and talk about this, please. We have to. Let's move this around a bit. Oh my God, we have to talk about this. So the timeline, my timeline specifically, where I have a mixture of people who I follow, from the fashion people to the gays who talk about cultural events in terms of reality TV shows, to the people from the States that just talk about stuff that I have no idea what's going on, like just crazy stuff, right? Just as I've got good group of people that I follow online. But there's also a contingent when it comes to football I follow, because I'm a bit of a football addict, but I try to keep it somewhat muted in terms of the platforms I'm on, because people tend to not like that kind of energy. But in general, I'm a big fan of football, obviously. Follow United, and obviously, most of the content that I kind of follow usually comes from fan channels and obviously watching games. But fan channels are a big part of kind of the culture in football nowadays. And one of the most prominent ones being AFTV, which is obviously an Arsenal focused channel, has launched a career of many notable figures from that channel who basically go on there. So basically a fan channel works in a way of, these guys attend the matches live or they watch them on stream, and then during the game, they maybe live stream the match with their reactions, or after the game, the host of the show will basically interview them and ask them for their feedback and whatever impressions of the game and what actually happened going forward, and then maybe ask them maybe what they think the club could do, basically allow them to rant for 5 to 10 minutes. And these clips sometimes go viral, especially with Arsenal when they're losing, quite often, or they're performing quite poorly. People have to kind of hate watch these channels in order to kind of get a rise out of the people and see them get a bit emotional. One of the leading figures on there is a guy called DT. I don't know what his actual name is. It's Daniel Taylor. I don't know why he's called DT, but regardless, right? He's one of the main guys on there, and this news came out of left field because I thought, from what I heard through the but through what I heard from people in comments and talking, whatever it may be, that allegedly the reason why he because he hasn't been on AFTV for a while, the reason why he hasn't been there was supposed to be something to do with his mental health, because he's a bit of an antagonizing figure, a bit of a polarizing figure, a bit of a troll, a bit of a shit poster, and because of that, he kind of has a lot of people that not really necessarily fans of him, so they maybe leave him a lot of abuse, and he's obviously got with a lot of spats with people and arguments, and it made sense that someone like that would maybe be suffering from some sort of mental health issues because of all the abuse they were getting. But also, it's hard to believe, because he's such a bully, that I've also thought that kind of mental health excuse was usually one of those defenses people do when they're bullies and they're not brave enough or willing enough to face up to their people kind of standing up for themselves and coming at them with facts and whatnot. They kind of hide behind the whole mental health thing, because nowadays, unfortunately, people use the mental health excuse to basically excuse their shitty behavior, because people can get away with it nowadays, because mental health has become such an important thing to talk about nowadays because it was overlooked for so long. So I think he kind of manipulated the situation quite clearly, because this story came out on a timeline recently, just the other day actually, regarding him and the actual truth of why he's been away for so long. So it says here, FT regular handed an increased prison sentence for violent stalking. So this whole time he's been away hasn't because he's been away because he's had mental health issues, because he's been convicted of violently stalking his ex-partner, and I think the mother of his child, in a violent manner. Absolutely nutty behavior, and it's so bad it was even on the government website, which I'm not sure why it was on there. I'm not sure if this is a thing that happens all the time, and we only get the news that's reported on actual media platforms. But this is quite wild that they put it on the government website. So it says here, violent stalker handed increased prison sentence. Liam Goodenough, interesting name there because it's the same name as the Japanese brand that I used to kind of love and know and love, but his name's whoever, has had his sentence tripled following a referral to the Court of Appeal by the Solicitor General Alex Chalk QCMP. It says the following: a man who stalked, assaulted and kidnapped a woman has had his sentence tripled following a referral to the Court of Appeal. Mate, do you know how sick that is to flip in, stalk, assault and kidnap somebody that you were once in love with and is the mother of your child? That is some sicko behavior. Liam Goodenough, 42. I didn't know he was that old. He's actually one of the only white people I've seen that doesn't look as old as they actually are. He's definitely a proponent for white don't crack in some cases. I didn't know he was that old. He's 42 years old. Shit. And he was acting like that on the internet. Because some of his reactions, honestly, some of the stuff that he was doing on that channel would make you think, is this guy buzzed or something? But, men of a certain age, when you don't necessarily, especially when you have kids and you have a family, you don't necessarily have a lot of interest that you kind of do outside of maybe sports. So you can get sometimes overly invested in it. So you can maybe excuse some people for going a bit loopy, for throwing controllers at their TVs and breaking stuff, because what else do you have to look forward to on the weekend? And when you see your team that you support putting out an absolutely abject performance, it's natural for you to be a bit annoyed. But some of the reactions that he had, you'll be like, is this guy all right? So to know he's 42 is even more wild. Anyway, let's continue. Stalked his former partner as she went on a date. Jealously sending the victim's brothers messages, threatening suicide, and demanding to know the location of the victim. Horrible. Using a tracker feature on her phone, Goodenough drove to the hotel the victim was staying at and verbally abused her, as well as assaulting her companion. He then proceeded to photograph her in a state of undress. Yo. So she was somewhat naked. Yo. Goodenough dragged the victim out of the hotel room to his car, suggesting he had a knife and that her son was in the vehicle. Sicko behavior. However, when she realized that her son was not in the car, she tried to escape. A bystander intervened and the victim was able to get out of the car while Goodenough escaped. Goodenough was convicted of stalking involving serious harm and distress and kidnapping on November the 5th, 2021 at the Aylesbury Crown Court. Goodenough was sentenced to 12 months imprisonment and was also handed a restraining order for a period of 10 years. So he was already in pen on the 5th of November. Or this, I guess this was also, but that's the interesting thing about UK courts. Somehow was he able to keep this. I guess I don't know what happens in the US, why if you're a prominent figure, your name, especially if you got involved in some sort of crime or you've been convicted of a crime, it gets splattered all over the papers sharpish. But for whatever reason, this was kept somewhat under wraps. He was able to not tell people, because there's this narrative going around now at the moment where people are basically getting on Robbie, who is obviously the founder of AFTV, and basically trying to accuse Uncle Robbie of being complicit and knowing that, DT was convicted of what he's convicted of. There's this clip going around at the moment that's doctored, where they make it seem as if they were laughing about DT's sentence, right, that he got now, but it was actually a video of him talking about him going to prison when he was 19 for an unrelated incident, which is obviously sad because it looks like people are trying to sabotage Uncle Robbie and take away his platform, which is really sick and pathetic, I think, because unless he did anything himself directly, I don't see why he should be paying for the sins of people that appear on his channel. That's not his business. But it is a little bit funny and fugazi to look at from afar, because Uncle Robbie did have that spat with that Mo guy who was really political, and he was talking a lot about, the Israeli-Palestine conflict, obviously screaming free Palestine and wearing the pin, and for whatever reason they had their Palestine falling out, but Robbie was really quick to kick that guy off the channel because, he kind of got on his nerves and maybe lied about how he reacted to stuff. I don't know, whatever the reaction reason was, but then if he knew about what DT did and he kind of kept him on the channel, it does make him look a bit funny in the light. But I don't think he knew, because I don't think Robbie doesn't strike me as that kind of guy, and he seems like a guy that seems to want to protect his brand. I think he did the same thing with Claude, R.I.P. Claude. I'm sure Claude will be laughing and smiling at the fact that DT got locked up as well, wherever he is. So R.I.P. to Claude. But Robbie was very quick to get rid of Claude when Claude went through his madness, and he said what he said about Son that could be construed as racism, which I think was a bit of an overtopped reaction. We've seen Robbie. He knows, he knows where his bread's buttered. He wants to protect the brand at all costs, and if you do anything to cross the brand, he gets you off his platform straight away. So I don't think that's the case. I don't think Robbie knew. And obviously, I also think if this guy has been talking about mental health and actually he's been going through this court case, because I imagine he's going to court, he's having to give evidence and stuff, so this was something that was known within his family, within his group of people, and I guess they didn't want to say nothing because the family want to protect the brand too, because he's I'm assuming he generates a lot of money on his channel, no one wants to kind of stop those funds coming in. As weird as that may sound, I'd imagine so that was part of the case, or they just wanted to protect his, his reputation. But this was a thing that he knew about for a while and he never told anybody. I don't think so. So I think he's obviously one of those people that's a compulsive liar. So it wouldn't surprise me, the scenario being that he maybe told Uncle Robbie from AFTV one thing about why he was going to prison, or why he was maybe having to sit down and go away for a bit, but Uncle Robbie didn't know the extent of it. And obviously, because it's not your business, you're not going to dig in deeper. Like I'm from ends. You don't ask people questions like that. You don't ask why they're going to prison. You'll find out eventually. But there's many people that I knew growing up with that went to Penn for a couple of times, for a couple of months, maybe for a year, sat down, and whenever anyone asks where's he or she, they're on a holiday, they went back to visit family. Do you know what I mean? You just keep it stum. There's no need to get in people's business. But this is quite sick, especially considering the person that he was online. This is really, really sick. Following the sentences of 12 months imprisonment, the Solicitor General referred Goodenough's sentence to the Court of Appeal under the unduly lenient sentence scheme. I wonder why that happened. Did he say something in the court to piss them off, or was the solicitor just angry anyway? I wonder why they did that, because I'm assuming that's not like a common thing. Some people just get away with stuff and get light sentences. I wonder why his sentence got referred to the ULS. If anyone else in the comments, let me know. On the 13th of January, the Court of Appeal found his original sentence to be unduly lenient and increased it to 3 years imprisonment. Speaking after the hearing, which again, we're not seeing, it's not 3 years with early release or IPP or whatever, maybe. What's that thing called when you come out? This is straight up 3 years he's going to be sent in prison, which is going to... For somebody that went from sitting at home streaming, ranting about Arsenal, to having to sit in the prison with actual criminals, lifelong criminals, and people that, just people who are, in a very bad place in their life, maybe for an extended period of time, that is a mind fuck, innit? But again, you can't be doing stuff like that to women, man. It's just not on. It really isn't. There's something I've never understood, I've never got, and I'd never really stand for, especially for guys in my circle. I never understand the whole thing about hitting someone, especially a woman that you was in love with, or being in a relationship with someone, or being to a point where you feel like the only thing that you can do to kind of get your point across is to strike somebody, kidnap them, threaten or whatever it may be. Somebody you should love, it just doesn't make any sense. I'd rather just break up. I don't, because I know some people enjoy that kind of relationship where they, they're arguing in their car, they push you out of the car, they slam the car, they slam the door, everything's shouting and screaming. I've never got that. Like if I'm with you, I want to be with you and bust joke and hang out and have a good time. I don't want to be like, oh, when I hear you putting your key in the door, I'm like, oh my god, here we go. Do you know what I mean? That's not a relationship. That just sounds like torture. But some people clearly enjoy that, and luckily this lady was able to escape the clutches of all that sort of stuff. And again, big up the person that jumped in, because a lot of people don't do that. So that's also something that needs to be kind of noted. People sometimes see that stuff as well, because it's hard as well. I don't blame people too, because it's difficult. When people are having domestic disputes, getting involved is sometimes can feel so demoralizing, because usually, more times out of 10, especially in abusive relationships, people end up always going back to someone that abused them, because they've just been abused such an extent, their brain's a bit fried in terms of how they're able to deduce things until it's maybe too late. So it can be quite frustrating, because you can clearly see this person isn't good for them, but when love takes over, all kind of sense-making skills go out the window. But anyway, to end it, the solicitor said the following: Goodenough subjected the victim to a shocking and frightening ordeal. I referred this sentence because I considered it did not reflect the gravity of the offending and was unduly lenient. I'm glad that the Court of Appeal agrees. I wonder why they even gave him that lenient sentence in the first place. Maybe he gave a good case for himself in the courts. Maybe tried to persuade them that he was mentally ill. I knew DT was mentally ill from time he allowed Rance to beat up his son. Him and Rance had Rance is another guy who's another well-known content creator and, person that kind of gives his opinion on terms of the team he supports, the same team as I, Manchester United. They had an ongoing beef. I don't know really why they had a beef or falling out, but they did have one. It got to a point where they decided to do a quote-unquote celebrity boxing match, and for whatever reason, DT kind of backed out of it and started talking about his medical ailments and, him have, I don't know what he's actually got, IBS or something. He's got something wrong with him that didn't allow him to get into the boxing ring and fight, which is odd, because you could easily done a fight where no one hits the body, hits the face only. It's easily to be done, but he didn't want to do that. And then for whatever reason, he decided to offer up his son as a sacrificial lamb, and obviously his son is like 17 or something, and Rance is a grown man who's been boxing most of his life, and he completely washed him in it, so which is embarrassing. It's just I knew from there that guy's a bit of a wrong one. From time he let his son get beat up by a random YouTuber, you certainly know there's something wrong, especially a YouTuber that you picked a fight with. Like, it's like, why are you letting your son back the beef? And obviously it's on Joe. They covered it, of course. So it's all over every kind of platform. You've got here a statement from AFTV basically denouncing DT, saying the following: this morning we've been made aware of news regarding DT, who was a regular contributor on AFTV until July 2021. I like that, regular. Was we are utterly appalled and disgusted by his actions and totally condemn domestic abuse or violence of any kind. DT has made us aware of personal issues in life. However, we can unequivocally say that the extent of the information made public by the government today is new to us. Whoever's writing this, bravo, very, very well written, very to the point, and distances themselves in 3 easy paragraphs. Next one. DT appeared on AFTV on the 1st of Jan when the severity of his original legal case was unbeknownst to us. The recent development came as a surprise, came as a complete shock to us all at AFTV. In light of the shocking news, DT will be offered absolutely no place on the channel again. So he's completely off of the channel. Makes complete sense. I'm sure TAZS punch in the air. TAZS obviously punch in the air. Claude, wherever he is clapping. Who else didn't really like him? Lee Gunn, I'm sure, is not a fan of his, who was on the TV for a while, but then he jumped off, I think, because he doesn't live here in the country anymore, does he? So I'm not too sure about that one. There's a few people that would be happy that he kind of got locked up because, he didn't really have many fans online apart from some Arsenal fans. Maybe some players too. Maybe Ozil is going to be happy. Maybe Xhaka's going to be happy. People sharing the memes. The judge after he tripled the sentence of DT. Take time. Was it? That's what the take your time. Good little memes. People saying this happened 2 weeks ago and no one on FTV knew anything about it. What was this? What's someone showing here? The ref ruined the game. 2-1 loss against City. And someone in the comments said something, right? What they say in the comments? Someone said, it's good to be back and giving my opinions on the game. I see all the positive comments and it means a lot to me. It really does. Holy shit. Oh yeah, because he told everybody that he was suffering from mental health or something, right? And people obviously giving him support because they thought he was suffering from mental health, but clearly the mental health he was suffering from was because he knew he was going to get banged up because he banged up his missus or his ex-missus. Madness, isn't it? Absolute scumbag shit. Another one says Liam good enough, aka DT. I was showing him Hood Rich. It's funny as well, he had those hats called Behave, and then he didn't behave. The AFTV and DT does it. People celebrating. Also, in Tottenham fans celebrating DT going to prison with the meme of those Bloods and Crips holding up a joint bandana. This is the best one, I think. What's that? It's just one of the best ones I love here. Robbie from AFTV when he's asked about DT being a stalker.
What? Nah, I never knew that.
So good. DT when he got home from ATV and his wife was going to bed. Oh mate, it's all okay. That obviously is horrendous to post, but yeah. DT from ATV is a prison stalking and kidnapped. I'm in shock and always came across as a level-headed guy. Okay, let's see what some of the rants DT did back in the day. Again, this is a bit unfair because, again, football for men is a bit of an emotional sport, especially if when you get older, you don't have any hobbies, many interests. Your circle of friends shrink, especially when you have a family, you have kids, you're not out in a club. You know what I mean? Things change. And having the outlet of being able to go to a game and celebrate or bemoan the misery of your team is a good release. So all these clips are a little bit, but again, he's a scumbag for what he done to his wife or his ex-missus. So maybe you don't give him any grace, but still, let's put that context out there. But this is probably not going to help his case. But let's leave this little compilation of some of DT's best moments on AFTV.
Shut the fuck up. Seriously, shut up, you fucking dickhead. Shut. If you want to say something, you come on here and say something, yeah? Shut up. Move yourself. Relax your fucking gums. Shut. How many games have I been to this year? Every single fucking game, you silly mug. Fuck off.
By the way, from what I know of men, anyone that barks this much usually isn't about anything. Usually. If you're that loud and aggressive, you're usually just trying to overcompensate for your, how scary you actually are deep down. You're really scary. You really, really are. You're not as much of a bad boy as you're trying to say. Because if you're really about the action, you're just going to turn off the camera and just start going into it. You're going to do a Jason Derulo. Usher, you're just going to turn around, flying Superman punch. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to wait. You're just going to go for it straight away. You don't do this barking, shouting and shit.
about how many games. You've been to more games than me. I've forgotten more games than you know, knobhead. Shut up.
Let's stay on. Listen,
Fucking knobhead.
Oi, let's stay focused on this.
I got fucking knobheads over there.
Listen.
I bet this is your first fucking game, you prat. Fuck off. Fuck off, dickhead.
Stay on this.
Nah,
right?
fuck him, man. Fuck him.
Hold on.
Yeah, so pretty level-headed, calm dude, isn't it? Obviously, this meme is great. Robbie and DT let him come back into AFTV. Yeah, this is a good one to tweet. Robbie let DT come back to AFTV but kicked Mo out for speaking about Palestine. That's a bit reductive. They had a falling out. Obviously, the Palestine thing didn't help the context, but clearly Robbie and Mo fell out because, from what I remember, Robbie felt like Mo was trying to mischaracter him and make it seem like he didn't want him to talk about politics when he didn't mind. But clearly, it was a conflict of interest there, and it was probably best that they kind of split and went their separate ways. But still, because I don't think, they don't really talk much about politics on their platform. Maybe he does it on his own show or his own channel. He's got Robbie, but I don't think he uses AFTV as a political platform. It's just about football. So for sure. But obviously, Mo felt very strongly about the conflict in or the conflict going on with Israel and Palestine at the time, and he wanted to speak about it. But again, I think it's unfair. Let's leave Robbie out of this. DT's obviously where he belongs in terms of the crime he committed, but just a mad news to see on the timeline, man. I'm not going to lie, crazy stuff to see. And again, for most people, you don't care about this, you don't know, but in my little world of like following these kind of football sports influencers, it's kind of funny to see this stuff play out in real life. I'm not gonna lie. Next, quickly, let's talk about some streetwear stuff. We got here news courtesy of High Snobiety, featuring the just announced, or I think recently announced, KAWS and North Face capsule collection, KAWS collection, which looks phenomenal. If obviously you guys are familiar with KAWS, everything that he makes when it involves streetwear, it's just all this about. I feel like most of the stuff concerning KAWS when it comes to streetwear, when it comes to streetwear adjacent things. Sorry about that. Mostly has to do with reselling. Mostly people don't really enjoy his art because they know how much stuff resells for. But I feel like this North Face collection is maybe a gentle reminder of just how talented that guy is, and obviously how good the stuff that he does how good the stuff that he makes actually looks. Because this is such a great, refreshing collaboration. Because I guess in terms of North Face collabs, the bar is supreme, and it feels like the recent collections or recent collaborations they've done with North Face have been a little bit, they're flattered to deceive. Which, don't blame them because they are quite, they do try and push the envelope. They're always trying to go for models and styles that people don't necessarily wear too often, and reintroduce things back into the zeitgeist that maybe aren't as popular. I don't know. They at least try some things. But it does feel like a lot of the collection, especially some of the Noopsies, have kind of fallen flat. But this, in terms of overall collection of jackets and pants and stuff, looks very interesting, very different from what obviously North Face do in mainline, and just it's great, I think, in terms of being able to wear it. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are going to buy this stuff to flip because it's going to go for crazy amounts. A Noopsie is anywhere between especially a collaboration Noopsie is like 400 to 500 quid. You could easily get $1,000 for this, maybe a couple of grand if you hold on to it for a bit longer. So they're definitely going to be well in demand. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that are definitely going to be tempted to just keep it and just wear them because they just so look good, especially this lime looking one in the background and this Denali looking fleece here. Like, you cannot get any better, man. They've got pants as well, which I've never really been a fan of the North Face pants. I think wearing head to toe North Face feels like a little bit of a lameness, like wearing the shoes and stuff. It just feels a bit lame. I'm not really a fan of it, but there's no denying this collection looks bloody good. Let's kind of go through some of the stuff. Are those Vans collaborations or those North Face too? What are those are they snow boots? Wow, I've never seen those before. They look great, but look at that that head to toe tracksuit is. It kind of reminds me of it reminds me of the braids as well. His braids are on point. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like North Face and Future Laboratory. KAWS and Future Laboratory sort of collaboration, which I think they did a few back in the day, right? If I'm not mistaken, there might be a couple that I'm kind of remembering, but yeah, that tracksuit looks fucking great. I think it's obviously some sort of illustration or line work done by KAWS, obviously there. I'm sure maybe zoomed in you can see it. I wonder what these boots are. Are they Vans? Are they Vans like snow boots? They look really good. If anyone knows in the comments, please let me know if you know what these boots are. They look banging, man. But yeah, they got this kind of black tracksuit going on there. Obviously this Denali probably might be one of the more popular pieces. It kind of reminds me of an inline North Face that they brought out that was like color blocked, had like different color sleeve, different color back, different color front. Do you remember that one? It came out recently. A lot of people were buying it at the time, especially here where I live. Again, really, really good. The pants even look quite good. Again, I'm not really a fan of. I'm not really sure I'd want to wear down pants. I'm already quite a sweaty dude. I can just imagine what my balls will smell like wearing a flipping, down jacket, flipping pants. You know what I mean? That fleece looks absolutely banging. I'm sure these are North Face shoes, right? But that logo is Vans. I'm pretty sure that is a Vans logo. But if anyone knows, let me know. But yeah, that fleece, that looks so good. It looks very brain dead-esque in terms of the print on it, or maybe it looks like it's been bleached. But the contrast between the orange here on the zip and the purple and the lilac, whatever it is, and the red here, that just pops off really, really nice. So well done. I'm not really a fan of the mountain parkas, I gotta be honest, so I'll skip that. And again, the North Face shoes look fucking ugly, and look at those things. Ugly, but the color jackets, again, I like that they don't have a better picture of that other North Face like in the back in it. It says the following. It says, it's true. KAWS holiday is quite complete without a North Face. At this point, I'd go as far as to suggest that we're living in a KAWS world. Seriously, this artist imprints everywhere. If you already want to live a complete KAWS lifestyle, it wouldn't be hard thanks to collaborations with Reese Puffs. Okay, they're talking too much nonsense. As 2022 rolls into motion, slowly picking its steam, the frequent stream of collaboration refuses to falter. With the arrival of the KAWS first ever North Face collection, delivered as an extension of the latest KAWS holiday installation. So, judging by how popular this is going to be, and it's the first ever one, which I didn't know actually, it's fairly evident to say that they're definitely, again, it's on the main Instagram page of North Face, it's on his page, for sure, this is a long lasting collaboration. They're definitely going to put out more things. I don't think this is going to be a one-off. So if you don't get one from this collection, don't be too hard on yourself, because you're going to be able to kind of double back when they do some more. But there's no denying there's going to be more of this. But this looks so good. Let's see if he posts anything more on his Instagram about it. But this looks really, really, really good. I'm not going to deny. Very, very, very impressive. Let's see if we got anything more. Nothing so far. Yeah, there we go. That's the one that I want. I want that one. This one this kid's wearing. This lime. Oh, you can't see it because I'm not logged in. But this lime one this kid's wearing. Oof, that is tough. That's the color I would choose, to be honest, out of all of them. Let's continue here. Getting a TNF team up under your belt feels like an important check mark on the streetwear to-do list. What is this article? Braindead had one Supreme. It has what it feels like hundreds extra butter, so it makes it feel yeah, it's a color block one. But yeah, that other one that's lime is my one. Oh wow, they've got a face mask too. Oh, this is gonna be so tough. And a hoodie. Yeah, this is the one. This lime one, yo, this is the one. If I can get this, I'm going to attempt to try and get it anyway. If I can, this is going to be so nice. Yowzers, this looks good. Yeah, that lime one's a one, because that's a color you can't get. And because I always feel like with collaborations, when it comes to North Face, you should try. That's why I've got the Dover Street North Face, right? The all black one. But obviously I like black jackets, but it's not special because it just looks like a black North Face that's Nupsi with some extra patches on it. But I feel like sometimes the best option to go for if you want to get a Nupsi or a North Face or a collaboration is to usually go for a color that they won't ever produce in line. So if they do a collaboration with Dana boots, choose the color that you probably won't get if you walk into a regular Dana shop. Choose a collaboration color that you won't get if you went to a Dr. Martens store, that kind of thing. I think that's usually the best way to go about it. So I think this sort of color, this sort of lime green, neon green, types of blues color you won't get in a normal inline stuff. Like, this is so hard. Yeah, that's my color. I'm gonna attempt to get it. Let's see if I can. Imagine me rolling up like that. With like a neon face mask though. Yeah, James Franco style. And what's that movie that he was in with the girls where he pretends to be like Riff Raff? Oh, that color's really nice too, actually. This sort of like cream off-whitey colors really, really, really popping. But that lime one's the one for me personally. You don't see people smiling in lookbooks, innit? Bless the guy. He's actually smiling in a lookbook. People never smile. They always got that kind of miserable streetwear face on. I'm wearing expensive clothes. But yeah, bless the little kid. Yeah, this looks great. This looks fucking awesome. I'm not going to lie, man. All looks so banging. Oh, that lime one. Come on. I'm going to get that. When's it meant to come out? January, February? February. Okay, good. Good. It says here, so why wait? Set to roll out throughout the official mini program in North Face dedicated KAWS website and at 82 retail stores starting from the 7th of January in Asia and February the 17th, with prices ranging from $55 to $555. So I imagine the North Face Snoop's is going to be that price. I wonder if that means 7th in Asia, or that means 7th, and so it's going to be 2 drops, or it's going to be just 1 drop. I don't know. Let's see what happens. If anyone's got more information, let me know. But I'm curious to see what the deal is, because this looks so good. Obviously that mountain parka with that red bit with the X's on it. This is going to be the stuff that sells out the first, because obviously it's the stuff that he uploaded on his Instagram page. So these 2 jackets are going to be the ones that are going to resell for crazy amounts on StockX for sure. And then I guess the Nupsies that might follow after, or that tracksuit that kid was wearing, the all black tracksuit, I think that might be. And then obviously the fleece, because people are in streetwear, they're flipping addicted to fleeces nowadays. So that fleece will do really well, and I guess this tracksuit will be really popular too. And that jacket, that mountain parka that I think no one's wearing, this one here, with obviously because it has anything that's got basically a really discernible logo where you can see the 2 X's, the 2 kind of eyes crossed out there in terms of the KAWS logo, that definitely do well. But this is definitely for me. That jacket there, this is me. If I can get this lime green Nupsi, I am going to be a very happy man. But yeah, let's try. We'll attempt to do that in February. If I do get it, of course, I'll update the podcast, people. It's probably not going to happen, though, because, these things are not really made for guys like myself, who I'm not willing to sit on my computer all day flipping, refreshing stuff in order to get these things. I'm not willing to do that shit. So most likely it's not going to happen. But, I'll give it a good go. What else I need to talk about here? Oh, this is good. We'll end it maybe some tech news with some dance music news. So this is courtesy of Mixmag. It says Manchester Teletech reveal lineup of debut festival. Now, I'm only familiar with Teletech because I went to the party they put on at Fold featuring Fiak and a few other people. But I mentally went to see Fiak play live. That's how I say pronounce their names anyway. But from what I've seen on the Instagram and digging a bit deeper and kind of, flicking through some stuff and checking out some interviews and whatnot and features here and there, they seem to be a fairly serious outfit out of Manchester in terms of putting on nights. Seem to be some fairly serious promoters who are doing things the right way. They seem to be getting over a lot of like kind of the Berlin glitterati sort of DJs, the people that you maybe have seen play some really disgustingly good sets on that station called Whore, or however you pronounce it, that bathroom in Berlin. And they are doing a good job of getting those guys over and obviously mixing it up with some other people that we all know and love, like Randomer and whatnot. But they seem to be a fairly serious outfit. They kind of take their raving seriously, bespoke sound systems, great flyers. I feel like the programming is always pretty decent and the nights are really good. I think they put on a fairly decent party on New Year's Eve, I think, in Manchester, which I'm assuming is going to be great because, I'd imagine the scene in Manchester is a bit smaller than London, but to have a collective like them, or to have a promotion out there that's doing parties of that level in a place like Manchester must be such a treat, because there's no need to come to London if they're able to pull some of the names they're able to pull. And it's got announced courtesy of Mixmag that they are revealing a festival they're going to put together, a 1-day festival. Was it a festival? What do you deem to be a festival? Festivals are usually stuff that happens, I'd think, in my opinion, things that happen more than 2 days or more than a day, right? But I guess nowadays, if you're able to put an event in like an outdoor kind of space for a day, you can deem it to be a festival if you want to be. It's a bit cheeky, right? Because, festivals, you would say, some people would go as far as saying, unless you're camping, it's not really a festival. But then, that's a little bit of a stretch. That's a little bit, that's a little bit harsh. I'd say anything more than a day is definitely more of a festival than, just going to an event that's just like a long day party or whatever, innit? But, we move on. says as follows. Promoter Teletech has announced a lineup for their new festival that will take place in August the 6th at an industrial site in Manchester. I think so far they haven't revealed the location, but I'm definitely going to take some time off work and go. It says today the lineup was announced. It includes Francois X, Kiki, SPF DJ, Anitha, Back-to-Back Randomer, I Hate Models, Rebecca, and more. The only thing I'd say, to be a little bit judgmental, even though I fuck with SPF DJ, she's a good girl. I've exchanged a couple of DMs with her on Instagram back in the day. She seems like a fun person. But the lineup, it's a little bit samey. They seem to book the same old people. If it's not someone from Possession. It's somebody from Berlin. It's somebody that's been on that, that bathroom in Berlin, channel whore. It's a little bit samey. I like a bit more of a mix up in terms of, but again, these people are basically they're the new four leaders, or the new four, they're basically the new breed of people that everyone's kind of coming behind, right? They're the new kind of new crop of DJs that are kind of really popular, especially with the kids. So it makes sense why they're booking them. But I want it to be a bit more fresh. Not unknown, just get some different people, because it's just the same. It feels like they kind of rotate the same Rolodex of like 30 DJs, from like, what's his name? Who's the little Spanish guy with the Mohican that's always tapping his feet like he's on flipping meth or something. Who's that guy? You know that guy I'm talking about? Yeah. There's always the same group of people. Anyway, it continues. Techno event called Tech Festival will see ravers gather at a yet to be revealed industrial site on August the 6th in summer. Can't wait to go. Manchester's always a great place to bop to, especially from London. I always feel like whenever you leave London and you go to a rave in the cities outside of London, people are so much nicer, because people in London are such pricks and so pretentious and so up their own arse, that when you go to other places, it's so refreshing to be around people who are nice and welcoming. But then I'm also sure if you live in Manchester, you'd also say people there are pretentious too, because that's where you live. But compared to London, man, like going out, especially in terms of fun, like in terms of just general fun, you could go to any town in the UK and go to a pub, and you'd probably have more fun in the pub with some randoms than you would do going to some clubs in London, because it's so hit and miss. It's improving, but for sure, in terms of nights out, there's more bang for your buck, and you'd have definitely a better time, I feel, going out in places outside of London. And what I've always loved too, about going outside of London, especially when you're just there for the weekend, especially on a Sunday, I've always loved the kind of the family sort of like friendly nature of it. Like everyone's always in groups going to lunches to go get a Sunday roast, to go get some brunch. It feels like there's a lot of groups of people that hang around. So, like friends or family members or a whole group of girls or whatnot. It's just nice to see that. It's just, you know what I mean? Loads of like love around the air, people just generally enjoying each other's company. Whereas in London, I feel like everyone's just bouncing around from scene to scene, trying to clout chase here, on their own here. Like, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of kind of individualism, whereas I feel like there's a lot of collective group love outside of London, which is, probably why the North-South divide exists, because we're completely different to people up north. But I've always enjoyed my time when I went to Manchester. I remember one time I went there for like a freshers kind of day, because I was working for some company handing out flyers and whatnot. And I think at the time, I was maybe one of my first jobs, and I happened to be there at the time when Domino's was doing this crazy £1 pizza thing. I think you got like a pepperoni pizza for £1, and I was like, I think I fell in love with the North there. I was like, we never get this stuff in London. So I got a pound pizza, went to a pub, got a pound. I was just loving life. But anyway, continue. Starting at 2 p.m, the party won't end until 5 a.m. with stages at both indoor and outdoor. The only problem with this starting at 2 p.m, especially for somebody traveling from London, again, it's not their fault. It's just a standard situation. Hotels and Airbnbs, they don't let you check in until 3 p.m. or sometimes 4 p.m. So if you're going to go there, you're going to have to go there. And usually most of these things, again, events in the UK are so annoying because they won't let you have a stamp and leave. So they're going to let you come in, but then you can't leave. So then you can't go and put your stuff back or, prepare your things in order to go to the festival. You just have to go straight there and then go to the accommodation later to sleep, or go straight home from there, or maybe just stay up. I don't know, whatever. It's just that's a little bit annoying about it. Starting at 2 p.m, you know what I mean? But then I guess if you want to, you could maybe sacrifice the first 2 hours and then just go get ready and then go then later. But, if you're going to pay the money to go to a festival, especially a day festival, the least you can do is stay there, is go to when it opens and stay until it closes. You know what I mean? There's no point doing anything else. But, maybe I'm in the wrong there. It says here, Tech Side is a small party in Fallowfield and has since evolved into an established promoter for the north of England. I don't know what's Fallowfield. What's that? It's an area in the UK. What's Fallowfield? Honestly, my geography in the UK is so bad. What's Fallowfield? Fallowfield is a suburb of Manchester. Okay, cool. Good to know. So good tickets to the festival. It's quite sad that I'm saying I don't know where Fallowfield is, being a supporter of Man United that lives in London, innit? But yeah, let's continue. Tickets for the festival go on sale February the 4th and will be available to grab here, which is that, what's here? Is that RA? No, Skiddle. Okay, they're doing it in their own place. Okay, how much are they going to be? Let's see. I'm saying £50 for the price there amount. No, we don't know what the price is, so no idea what the price is, but 6 the minimum age. Okay, I say £50. My guess is going to be about 50, which was okay for the entire lineup. The entire lineup finishes as follows. obviously the 999 guy, Nefa back-to-back Randomer, Charlie Sparks, Clara Kuv. Yeah, loads of Berlin people that can't play in their own city because their city has decided to close everything up. It'll be funny though, a lot of people might end up backing out of this because if Berlin opens up before August and everything's back open and shit, you're probably going to want to bang out all your sets over there and come over here. So there might be people dropping out here and there. But yeah, loads of glitterati from Berlin. I would like to see D-Dan play actually live. Dax J, I could do without after I saw him play at Thingamajig. Whereas at E1, I thought it was pretty boring. Going through the motions. Again, maybe it's just, he's too big of a DJ nowadays to kind of be inspired as he was when he was younger. But hey, DJ Boneyard, Francois X, of course, I'm going to go see him. Fraser, Gabriel Eleganza, definitely go see him, even though I've seen him a few times at Fold. Had One, definitely go check High Hate Models just to see, observe, because I saw some people on the techno subreddit basically saying that he wasn't great live and he kind of flattered to deceive, and maybe he's a great producer, not a great DJ. And some people say it's very entertaining. So again, I like to see my own eyes, make my own judgment. You got somebody called Indacrum, who I don't know, Kanda I don't know, Kiki I know, Klange Kluster I know, Nini H I know. She's fucking phenomenal. Definitely one of the standout people to check out on Whore in terms of that that place, that toilet in Berlin, how you pronounce it. Otta Barfe, she's obviously really good. Another lady from oh wow, Patrick Mason's there. Another lady from Position, Patrick Mason, a great follow too on social media. Another person who stands out on Whore, who done some amazing performance on there. Rebecca, Shlomo, SPF DJ, Talia, and a person called Trim. So yeah, it's going to be a really decent festival. The lineup looks pretty awesome. Standard thing. It's going to be nice to sort of mix it up instead of going to the same old places here in London. It's going to be in Manchester, a bit of a nice place to go to. Again, even though the Airbnbs, it might be a little bit expensive. And again, the only reason why I'm annoying it is just because it starts at 2 and most Airbnbs don't let you check in until flipping, until 4 p.m. or whatnot, which is super, super, super annoying. But again, not their problem. I guess I'll have to figure that out when I go there. But yeah, I love everything about it. I wonder if they got merch as well, because the artwork they put on their flyers is really nice, man. I wonder if they got some merch they put out too. Maybe they do. But yeah, they've got a competition going at the moment. If you want to retweet the tweet they got up there to win tickets and whatnot, you can do that. Feel free. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Teletech Festival happening in August the 6th. Teletech Festival, 2 p.m. to 5 a.m. An all-day affair, barnstorming one. Pace yourself, don't wreck yourself. It's going to be an absolute blast. But yeah, that is AgostinhoZinga Show episode number 542. Thanks again for tuning in. If it's your first time, check out the show via YouTube. You know what to do. Smash like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you listen via the podcast app, a 5-star review, a 4-star review, a 3-star review, a 2-star review, a 1-star review would help the show massively. The Patreon episode, it's coming out. Check it out very soon. Be patient, please. I'm rendering. I'm organizing. It's coming. And as soon as that's out, of course, it'll be another one at the end of the week. I'm going to do hopefully a fight companion type thing at the end of the week too on YouTube. So check that out if you want to watch the fights with me live. I'm going to have a live stream coming out also next week. Live stream coming out next week. So if you want to listen to that too, definitely check me out on there. And apart from that, I'll see you guys very soon, man. Thanks again for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to have your company, and I'll see you very soon. Peace.